everybody! Today on the show we're talking about proposals, which got me thinking, why do we give rings? Why don't we just offer each other medals, being like, hey, you won! Me! Oh, that's not real gold, is it? Lies! Cardo 2014 tweeted me at Cristen with a great question. Could you do a video about women proposing to men? In 2015, why do we not see more of this? Presumably, we will be seeing more of this just by virtue of more same-sex couples getting married with the recent legalization in the United States. I would assume that if, two women are in a relationship and decide it's time to get married, a woman will be doing the proposing, unless they're like, you know what, we don't want to buck gender traditions any more than we already have. Let's just like bring in a guy. Maybe that's like a whole cottage industry that could pop up, propose a dude, he just comes over, gets down on one knee, offers the ring, and then the lady's off to the side being like, ah. But it's true that when it comes to opposite sex couples, as much progress as we've made in terms of evolving culturally with the women's roles, there are these entrenched gender-based traditions. Probably one of the most steadfast among them is the proposal tradition. The reason why it is held so steady, women don't want to propose. A lot of them, and even more men, don't want women to propose. This is largely based on a 2012 study out of UC Santa Cruz in which the researchers polled 277 college kids, so a little bit of a grain of salt there, I guess, and asked their comfort levels with men doing the proposing, women doing the proposing. 0% of men were in any way at all comfortable with the idea of women proposing to them. And they only found a very small percentage of women who were somewhat comfortable with the idea of them proposing to a dude. But 0% of those women were definitely comfortable and intending to propose to a guy. And the three main reasons cited make a lot of sense. Upholding tradition, avoiding emasculation, that it would dilute the romance of the moment. The guy getting down on one knee and offering up a ring, the symbol of all of his love that just makes everything worth it, all the pain and the heartache. If a woman gets down on one knee and the guy's just staying there and then he starts doing this, then what's that? There was one poll conducted in 2014 by the Associated Press, which found, funnily enough, that 3/4 of respondents said, yeah, it's totally fine if a woman wants to propose. But only 5% of the married women who responded to that poll said that, yeah, they had actually done the proposing. So even if we might be theoretically inclined to say, yeah, okay, that's totally fine, it's far rarer even still for it to happen. What interests me more than trying to get more women to propose to their boyfriends is examining and dismantling the logic that a lot of this tradition is predicated on. It does say that we only trust men to come to a long-term committed monogamous relationship on their own terms. If a woman asks a man, then she is rushing him. To me, that does a little bit of disservice to men and continually promotes this idea that all men want to have sex with everything all of the time and have no interest in commitment. And on the flip side of that, it's doing a disservice to women for A, being a little bit mistrustful of men, and also assuming that women's end-all be-all goal is always marriage and a committed long-term relationship. There are tiny grains of truths on individual levels, of course, in all of this, but as a blanket truth, no. It especially doesn't hold up in the context of modern-day relationships. If you think about the history of marriage, it started as something entirely transactional. Only recently transitioned into something more based on mutual attraction and romance. It's shifted into something that is focused even more on partnership. And as someone who is engaged in planning a wedding, I like the idea of being able to pick and choose from these kinds of traditions and reinvent traditions and figure out what kind of things best express my relationship and my love and my commitment to my future husband. When it comes to the actual proposal, yeah, I guess we went pretty traditional. That was the process of a lot of conversations and joint ring shopping and a trip to China and like all of these things that we planned and we did together, and him specifically asking me to be able to do the proposing. To me, that conversation and a joint vision for the future is far more important than whose knee hits the ground and lifts up a ring. Now I want to know from you, would you like for it to be more accepted for women to do the proposing? How would you like to see these kinds of marriage and wedding traditions evolve? Let me know in the comments. Thanks everybody who watched and commented on last week's Ask Cristen video. Do age of consent laws really work? It seemed like the major consensus in the comments was, Jay Kwong said, how does your older self convince your younger self that your decisions that look good at the time is wrong? Because I said so didn't work for 15-year-old me. Kimiko Takuno also said, it's a really tricky subject because there's no magic age that makes you ready for sex. Everyone develops and becomes mature at different rates. Some youth need that freedom while others need protection. It's impossible to draw a line between them, so there really is no right answer. Speaking of which, let me know your questions. They don't have to be related to this video whatsoever. If you got questions, I want to know them so I can give you some answers. And shots of my engagement ring hand.